Hi, Mouse Toes here, and today I'm going to be canning chicken breast, and I'm also going to be canning Boston butt. There is no more tender chicken than what you can. I can and prepare for 2 people, so I do mine in pint jars. And I'm also going to do the raw pack, where I simply cut up my chicken. I'm going to leave 1 inch of head space. I'm going to add a teaspoon of canning salt per jar. I'm going to get all the air out, and then I'm going to process these in my area of the coast of South Carolina for 75 minutes at 10 pounds. Do not be afraid to can meat. There is no more tender meat than that which you can. My husband is a maniac for this stuff. So easy to just open this jar, drain off the broth that it made itself, because remember, this is a raw pack. I'm not going to add any liquid to this. This is incredibly tender. And the pork butt, oh my goodness, it's fantastic. You hardly have to shred the pieces when you take them out to make a pulled pork sandwich by just adding barbecue sauce. There are a lot of references to use, and of course the Ball book is #1. This is also for my friends who are afraid to use their pressure canner and petrified of canning meat. No better way to store up. I get everything ready for canning. My jars are clean and they're standing at the ready to go. I've got my salt ready. I have my rings waiting. And one of the most important things to do is to inspect your canning lid every time. Mine is a Presto, so I want to make sure that everything's tight on this before I even begin to can. I also want to make sure that that emergency pop-up functions well. This is not going to explode. I also don't leave my canner, my pressure canner, when it's canning. I also generally do it outside, but it's too windy today and it was 31 degrees this morning, which for us is freezing. We're up to 50, but I still have wind and I don't feel like fighting my 30,000 BTU or putting up my redneck wind wall. So I'm going to do it inside. These are some of my chicken breasts. I don't think you need to watch me slice up chicken, but I'm going to cut it into sizes about this size. Little chunky monkeys. And that's what's going to go into my pint jar. And I'll show you what it looks like as I load the first jar. As I'm loading the jar, I want to use my little pokey Joe, and I want to push it down. The same as when you're doing anything to get some air bubbles out. I want as much as possible in here, and I'll let you know how many breaths I could get in this jar. So I'm just going to smush it down, make sure I get on the sides. And of course I inspected all of my jars, felt around the rim before I even began to can. So my jars are clean, they are not hot because I'm doing a raw pack, and I'm also going to be putting them in the pressure canner that does not have any heat under it at all right. I got 2 large boneless breasts into this jar, and again I'm using my pokey Joe and I'm pushing out all the air that I can get out of here. I like this funnel that shows me the headspace. If you don't have that type, you're going to use your pokey Joe that has your measurements on the side. I've already put a teaspoon of salt into this. And if I use my pokey Joe, I have too much. So I'm going to pull some pieces out. Can't mess it up. Pull them out. The head space is very, very important, as anyone who can knows. It's just imperative to safe food storage. So now I'm pretty much at the correct head space. Let's check it with our pokey Joe measuring. That is a beautiful thing. And it is spot on. I never go simply by looking at the rim. I always want to check it. Maybe a jar could be wrong, so I always use my own measurement just to be sure. So now I need to use some vinegar and clean off that rim before I put my lid on it. I just keep some vinegar in a little container, and then I'm going to wipe that rim. I don't want any grease come in between. Now I use a hard lid. I don't use a tattler. I am kind of scared of the tattler. I have some, and one day I'm going to use them, but not today. So now we want to get our lid on, if I don't make a crash and bang. There we go. And I use the finger tight method. I make a weak hand or a limp wrist, and I hang my fingers, and I do finger tight. So that's how I do it, just a little limp wrist. So this one I'm going to set in the canner. It is not getting warm because these are cold jars and cold food or room temperature meat that's going in there. If it were room temperature chicken, that wouldn't be good. So it's cold chicken. On the chicken breast, into pint jars, there are 5 pint jars that are full. And it turned out to be 5.35 pounds of chicken that turned into 5 pint jars. Now I'm going to move on to this pork Boston butt roast that was on sale. And we got it for $6.28. And this is the one that we like as much as the chicken for pulled pork sandwiches because it is so tender, it's unbelievable, with a very rich flavor. And again, I'm going to raw pack it into clean jars. They are not hot. My canner is not hot, but my canner doesn't hold a lot of pints. I'm just canning for 2 people. So I'll get as much pork as I can into 2 or 3 more that'll fit in my canner. And then I'll process those, and then I'll finish. I am working on making pints of the pork butt, and here is the first one. It's exactly like the chicken. A teaspoon of salt in it, 1 inch of head space, and then of course wipe your lid, wipe your rim, put your lid on and your ring, and it will be going in the pressure canner with the 5 pints of chicken that I have. I find it easier to trim with kitchen scissors, and of course after I did the chicken, I sterilized everything, including my hand, cleaned the chopping board, the countertop, and the Pokey Joe, and the funnel, and the things that I'm using. I'll also, after doing that and finish making the video, I will also do the same to my camera on-off button and my record button. So just food safety is the best. Do the best that you can. It's very So my little Presto pressure canner is loaded with 7 pints, 5 of chicken breast, 2 of pork butt, and I'll go ahead and get that venting for 10 minutes. But again, I made sure that everything was tight in the canner, from the dial gauge to, I call it the emergency flip up, and as well as the little vent. So I'll get these processing. 75 minutes at 10 pounds for my area. The cost of meat is skyrocketing. You can struggle to find a 6-pound hen. So the largest we found in our area is 4.5 pounds. So when we find meat on sale, we're getting all over it because the cost is just too much, and it's great and it's shelf stable in our food storage. Alright, we have begun to vent for 10 minutes now that what I call the nipple is up. I've got my little mouse timer set on 10 minutes, and I'm going to let that vent. And after that, I'll be putting on my Mr. Jiggler, who I like so much better than the thing that came with it. And I'm going to process for 75 minutes. I am not an expert at food storage or food canning. I am just a mouse. Refer to your ball book and refer to your pressure canner for the way that you do these things. But processing meat and having meat in your food storage, you cannot go wrong. Just follow safe food practices. I'll let you see it when it comes out. My 5 pints of chicken and my 2 pints of pork have processed. All of the jars have pinged, and I only have 2 pints of pork to process, so I got 5 pints of chicken and 4 of pork. I would rather pay less now than more later, and a lot of comfort to having this in your food storage. Please do not be afraid to use your pressure canner or to can meat. While they process, I do not leave my kitchen living room area. When I pressure can, I need to make sure that at no time in that processing time does my canner drop below that safe poundage recommended for that. So I usually go to YouTube and watch something by Noreen's Kitchen or Cat's Cradle. And today I watched Noreen's Kitchen. I believe Noreen is the cutest woman on the planet, and I definitely think she's the best cook. She made her own whoopie pies, which look so fantastic, I actually got my monitor clean. So as Justin Wilson says, from my neck of the woods down in Drew, Louisiana, we're going to eventually put this in a hunger spot. So have a great one. Get those pressure canners going. Save now while you can. Mouse Toes out.